Indisputable proof that mankind is changing the world's climate has always been elusive. Tonight, Channel 4 News can reveal how new evidence of one major impact of global warming is being gathered in an area regarded by most as a crucial tipping point in the planet's future. For this special report, our science correspondent Tom Clark travelled from Resolute, one of the most northerly settlements in Canada, then flew to the floating sea ice in the Arctic just 750 miles from the North Pole. He joined a group of climate scientists making the first measurements beneath the Arctic ice of this ocean's ability to absorb carbon, an emerging phenomenon with potentially global significance.
This is science in the extreme, close to the North Pole, one of the most challenging environments on the planet. But the mission is critical, to drill into the Arctic ice in search of vital clues to climate change. How much of this white expanse and the ocean beneath being damaged by global warming? Is this sea on the way to losing its ability to absorb carbon dioxide, accelerating our progress towards a warmer future?
Now we're going to try and land on the floating sea ice on which this group of scientists have been camped for the last 3 weeks.
There's no time for introductions, just unloading, as the plane has to get back before conditions worsen. Then we're left on the ice, a community of 10, and a dog called Brownie. There's no other people for 300 miles. This ice base is being run by the Catlin Arctic Survey. Established last year, it unites scientists with experienced polar explorers. The idea to give researchers access to a part of our planet so harsh and remote that it's so far defied proper scrutiny. It's colder than a freezer, minus 20 degrees, and temperatures here have dropped as low as minus 45, so frostbite is a genuine threat. After ClimateGate rocked public confidence in the science of global warming, these scientists have a chance to answer skeptics with cold, hard facts.
Whether you believe in climate change or not, we need to understand what's going on in the climate. And we're at a stage where we know certain things, but there's a lot of stuff we don't know. And as a scientist, my job is to go out there and find out facts.
The facts already emerging about the Arctic go a long way to explaining why this frozen wilderness is now of global significance. This analysis, released just last week, reveals how, since the 1980s, the Arctic has been warming twice as fast as anywhere else on Earth. A suspected cause, the Arctic Ocean's rapidly retreating ice. Scientists really don't have a very good idea at all about what's going on in the ocean beneath my feet. And that's a big problem, because changes in the seas here will have fundamental impacts on the functioning of the entire planet. The Arctic Ocean, hidden beneath this 2-metre thick ice, is thought to be a crucial part of our planet's life support system. Because it's so cold, it's better at absorbing planet-warming carbon dioxide than most other seas. The tiny plants that live within it, called phytoplankton, act like a vast liquid rainforest. Globally, oceans soak up as much as half of the carbon dioxide we produce, and because this frozen ocean absorbs more than its fair share, the rapid changes happening here could be very serious. This is the first team of scientists to camp on this ice and chart these changes in the sea over time. But to work here safely, they need looking after, and that's the job of polar explorer John Houston.
Well, it may look harmless, but within an hour, the weather can change to totally cloudy, fog, zero visibility from a sunny day. And if someone gets injured or lost, even for a short time, they can have frostbite or other severe injuries.
But it's not only the elements. They're sharing this ice with polar bears, the world's largest land predator, which, if hungry enough, would happily swap a diet of seal for scientists.
So this is where everybody sleeps. The tents are set up so the snow doesn't drift on the tents behind. And the tent area is surrounded by a bare wire, which passes electronic current around the perimeter. And if someone trips into it or a bear trips into it, it sounds an alarm.
From the sea ice itself down to the water below, These researchers are here to investigate the impact of more and more carbon dioxide dissolving into the Arctic Ocean. It causes something called ocean acidification. Practically unheard of a decade ago, this emerging phenomenon could mean nothing less than an end to our ocean's ability to keep mopping up that carbon dioxide and therefore cooling the planet.
So we're going down.
Using this device to collect water samples as deep as 200 metres, Dr. Helen Findlay from the Plymouth Marine Laboratory is the first scientist to assess whether the ocean hidden under this winter ice is becoming more acidic.
The Arctic, for most of the year, up until recently, has been completely covered with sea ice. To be able to see through a window of that sea ice into what's going on below in the sea water is absolutely fascinating. And it gives us an opportunity to actually see what's happening in terms of chemistry and biology and how those processes interact.
Preliminary measurements she's made indicate this ocean is indeed more acidic. But what impact that will have depends entirely on how the plants and animals beneath cope with the change, because it's they that lock up the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. But it's such a crucial time for the scientists to be here, because this is the short Arctic spring, and it's when the sea ice over the surface is just starting to melt and the ocean below is coming into life. And it's that undersea life that's brought Dr. Kerry Lewis, a marine biologist from Exeter University, all the way to the Arctic. They may be small, but the tiny animals she's collecting in this net are hugely significant. Creatures such as these shrimp-like copepods eat those tiny marine plants that absorb all that carbon dioxide. Not only does that make them important for our climate, but the smaller animals form the base of the Arctic food chain. Without them, there'd be no fish and no whales. Her experiments are looking at how a more acidic ocean is harming these tiny animals. A big challenge has been keeping her creatures alive. They're used to living in a sea just 2 degrees below freezing, but it's -20 in the air outside.
The temperature affects everything that we do. I mean, it's incredibly cold. And we've had to adapt a lot of our techniques to be able to cope with everything freezing and our hands getting so cold. But we've managed to find a way. It's been challenging, but we've got around most of the problems, actually.
But the conditions at the ice base are nothing compared to those 500 miles north. Here, a team of seasoned Arctic explorers, also part of the Catlin Arctic Survey, are taking samples of water and ice as they attempt to trek to the North Pole.
Just pulling up a water sample that's been taken at 10 metres.
They sent these pictures showing treacherous ice flows carrying them backwards.
Hopefully we're making some progress today. Last couple of days we've been getting pushed back as we're going forward, so it's like 1 step forward, 2 steps back. We just can't compete with the drift.
They're still trying to reach the pole, but even if they don't succeed, they'll still have collected potentially valuable data for the scientists. Back at the ice base, it's nearly midnight, but it's still light, and the scientists are in their lab tent. They've just a few weeks to complete their work before the ice here gets too thin. Already, their most preliminary findings suggest this finely balanced ecosystem could be in for some big changes. But despite my asking, these scientists tell me they won't be tempted to make predictions about what the future may hold for this ocean. In a time of renewed doubt over the risks of climate change, they're not jumping to any conclusions.
We're still very much in the process of data collection. When we get home, we have still a lot of analysis to do. We don't just see things immediately go, oh my god, that's changing the world.
In the camp's mess tent, we have our last meal with the scientists before we leave. They're due to publish their results in September. This is a long way north of Copenhagen, where world leaders fail to act on what we already know about our changing planet. As the Arctic is warming faster than anywhere else, it's possible that it's from a place like this, from scientists like these, that a real wake-up call may come. Tom Clark, Channel 4 News, in the Canadian Arctic.